Formula 1 has arrived in Saudi Arabia ready for the Grand Prix, but we need to take ourselves back to the end of the previous race. At the end of the previous race, Sam was unable to score any points, making it 2 races in a row without consecutive points. At the end of the Grand Prix, Dr. Helmut Marko and Sam were involved in a very heated discussion back in the paddock. This forced both Christian Horner and also Daniel Ricciardo to get involved and get in the middle of the two squabbling. Now, what we have confirmed is that Sam is staying at Red Bull. However, that was not by choice. He was actually initially sacked hours after the Grand Prix itself. However, after constant discussions between Dr. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner and Adrian Newey, Christian Horner managed to persuade Helmut Marko to change his mind and keep Sam at the team. So, why did Sam get sacked and why has Helmut Marko changed his mind? Well, Christian Horner has come out and said that both Sam and Marko were going at each other very strongly in terms of their verbal actions towards each other at the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Horner has stated that Marko made multiple comments about Sam and also his family, which obviously really irated Sam, and in which Sam came back and responded by insulting Helmut Marko and specifically his glass eye, which is something that Marko was extremely offended by and of course instantly tried to get Sam removed from the team. But Christian Horner has said that at the moment Marko and Sam are not speaking to each other at all, but crucially he knows that he needs Sam in that team to continue to help them press forwards and go for the championship. So Sam has his seat, but it was only by Dr. Helmut Marko changing his mind and Horner making the stance to keep him there. Taking a look at the race news then, heading into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it was the Ferraris that were fastest in practice, with Hamilton and Schumacher sharing the honours at the top of the standings. Teams fear that Ferrari have indeed brought an upgrade of some kind to help boost them clear. Ferrari were over 0.3 of a second faster in practice and also in the long runs, not only in qualifying simulations. Teams fear they've got something in their back pocket. Ferrari are adamant and they have stated that they do not have any upgrades onto their car and that they are so far just able to get their car working in the right window. Renault are impressed with their long run pace and it seems becoming an evidential factor about the new Renault car. The Renault is still struggling a lot in qualifying trim, however put the fuel in the car and let it go on the long runs and the Renault seems to come into its own, something that Tom and Gasly have been praising the team for, but now they're looking to try and get their short run pace under control. And Porsche are unable to get their fronts working in a crucial track where you really need good front end grip to get the car swinging into all the high speed corners. Porsche can't seem to get that working. Both Bottas and Sainz really desperate to try and find a way to get their fronts getting working. However, that's really compromised them, especially on the rear end of the car. Trying to add more front end is really unsettling the rear end of the car and they just can't find that balance yet. So hopefully they can try and find it, but let's see if they can do then. It's time for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on guys, this is Foxydude here, welcome back to a brand new video and another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. We're here for round number 5 of the season. It is time for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's get straight into the race weekend and see how we can get on. If you ever enjoyed the video, drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here as well. Look at the last corner then, and that was actually not too bad as we go on to the start finish straight here to complete our banker lap time. So where's this going to put us in retrospective to everybody else? We crossed the line and it's way off the pace because again, I always like to set a banker lap just to get a feel of the circuit with the car because I don't practice at all heading into these weekends. I only really do a little bit of testing if I want to try out some performance changes that I've made to some of the teams. But as we go towards our second flying lap here, this is a lot more competitive here, 1.1 seconds up, but it is still a long way off the pace. 9/10 down on Max Verstappen there, so a lot of work to do, and let's get straight onto it then as we go on board here for our final flying lap now here. Down in towards the first corner and breaking around the 100-meter board. I had to take a couple of stabs at the steering there into the first chicane because I actually broke probably a little bit too early, but we gained 0.3 of a second through there as we now go through, actually touching the wall slightly there. That sends me a little bit off balance there and going wide through that portion of the lap. So far it's been a little bit of a scruffy first part of the lap here, but this next part of the section was absolutely beautiful there, and we're now 4.5 tenths up on our previous best lap time and 3 tenths quicker than Callum Ilott in P16. So of course we need to try and see if we can get as high up on the grid as possible. Of course we're never that good in qualifying because the AIs really ramp it up to the point where we struggle a lot here as we get through the end of this middle sector. We've actually lost a little bit of time though, just under 1/10 of a second through the middle sector here, so we haven't quite maximised the true performance of the car through this portion of the lap now. We're only a 10th up on Ilot's time as we now fly our way through towards the end of the middle sector, nailing the curb there on the right hand side as we now open up the DRS here down this straight. But again, we're pretty much matching our own personal best. We really found the time in sector 1 now as we make our way down in towards the last corner, braking at the 50-meter board this time. That was a perfect entry, a perfect exit. 0.3 of a second we found there in one corner alone now as we cross the start-finish line. That wasn't too bad of a lap. So here we go then, we are here on the grid for the start of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Just editing the strategy, as you can see, starting on the soft compound tyres, moving to the mediums at the end. So here we go then, ready for this race. Then we've got 5 red lights and it is going to be lights out right now. Here we go then, let's get this race underway. And it's a decent start from us actually, off the line there compared to a couple of our other starts here. And it gives us a clean run down the inside, but going super cautious down into towards turn 1. Don't want to lose my front wing through there. It's not really a place where you can dive bomb it. We get the inside line done. Swoop to the outside then for the second phase of the chicane there. And that allows us, as we get very close there, to the back of our teammate Gasly and also Verstappen in there, nearly getting contact. So we have to back out of that one, but it's absolutely fine. We make our way through and just all about navigating the track safely, and we just about get through unscathed there. As I was about to say earlier, we took the outside line for turn 2 as Ricciardo there tried to sneak another move back up the inside there, but we were having absolutely none of that there. But like I said, we were trying to get around the outside of turn 2 because it just allowed us to get a better exit than Ricciardo and also from Russell there, and that means that we're safely through. But as you can see here, powering on through this next part of the straight here, you can see we've got one of the Mercedes cars struggling a little bit for performance. One of the McLarens is in front here. We're now going to try and use our ERS because they've stopped using it. We breeze past Verstappen there, and now in towards the next section of corners, going a little bit late on the brakes there. Verstappen fancies a run back at us, but we cover off Max Verstappen, and now it's a 4-wide moment here between a couple of cars now as we go through. We've got Gasly in the mix here, we've got Norris, we've got, I think that's Leclerc, one of the Mercedes cars is in there, and also one of the McLarens. I'm not sure which McLaren that is, but first things first, we're going to take it step by step here. Down the inside of Gasly into the second to last corner. Hamilton sets a fast lap of the race, so 124.2. Now we've got Leclerc here attacking Lando Norris. We're in the slipstream of Leclerc, now in the slipstream of Norris here, and we're going to fake to the inside, to the outside, sorry. Move to the inside. It's 3 wides here going through this section. A little bit of contact between myself and Leclerc there, but nothing too serious as I tried to, I was a bit unsighted by where everybody was going, but eventually we do get past Charles Leclerc there. So we're up into 9th place now. That's 5 places gained on the first lap. So all in all, it's been a successful first lap. And here are the 5 lights going out right now. And let's see how everybody got on. Of course, we'll have a look at some other people in a moment here. Leclerc there, not getting the best of starts there, instantly having to cover off the move from Verstappen here. As we went down the inside of Ricciardo and Russell here, you can see how we opened up the corner for turn 2, concentrated on that more than anything, and it just allowed us to get a better run on those drivers and eventually stay free. This is Nick De Vries' start here. It wasn't a good start, unfortunately, for De Vries here. He automatically goes to the inside line to cover it. Back in sliding a little bit there as he's got his teammate Perez on the inside. He's got Sam, I think it is, on the outside, but somehow De Vries actually manages to stay on top of things and stay in front. And this is on board with Sam now and what it looked like from his perspective. So as you can see here, De Vries goes to cover off Perez. That opens the door for Sam to just launch it around the outside into turn 1. He thinks he's got it done by the inside of turn 2, but just like I did with Daniel Ricciardo and George Russell, De Vries is able to open up the exit of turn 2, and that just allows him to go through with Sam there with a bold move there around the outside of turn 4, I think that is. And now they're going to scrap here throughout the entirety of this first sector, but De Vries stays on front there, and that's good news for him, as unfortunately we've got a retirement there. I don't think it's Russell, I think it's actually the Porsche car. Of course it is, it's Bottas. Of course the names mod doesn't work for people that retire, so I've got to clarify that myself. Unfortunate start there from Valtteri Bottas. We're on board here with Daniel Ricciardo trying to make up some progress in this race. You can see that he's just a couple of cars behind us, but it might be one fewer less than that as he's on board here attacking Verstappen now as they make their way down in towards the final corner here, turn 27. Round the outside he goes here off Verstappen. It's going to be a little bit tasty on the exit, but Max actually gets a great run there. So for Ricciardo, he's going to have to settle back and just wait a little bit longer, and it's a drag race now down the start finish rate here in towards the first corner. Who's going to come out on top? We've also got a battle behind there. I think think that is Sainz having a look there at one of the forward cars. Ricciardo goes to the inside of turn 1, has to defend the outside though for turn 2, and that's going to allow Verstappen to just keep this battle going on. They're actually going to continue this for a lot longer, aren't they? Jeez, as they now go through towards the end of the heart here of the first sector. Some high-speed corners coming up here. Who's going to come out on top? Verstappen does. Oh, and Russell just tried to have a look there on Daniel Ricciardo, but unfortunately for Russell, he's not able to get the move done here. Lap 3 of the Grand Prix. This is where the race is going to get a little bit spicy now, as DRS has been enabled, and that's going to allow a lot of drivers to get involved into some combat. One person that's getting involved into combat, that's me, because you can see on board here, we're now attacking Norris. Fast lap of the race so far, but granted, we have got DRS here at the moment. Of course, the race leaders don't, but we make a nice move here around the outside of turn 1, and then claim the inside for turn 2. Job done on Lando Norris. That's 8th place now gained, and now we've got to try and wait for the attack up ahead, because we've got the two McLarens battling each other. The battle for the final podium spot at the moment is going towards Sam and De Vries here, as Sam now just breezes past Nick De Vries there. It wasn't really a competition on who was getting that place. There's one slot further back here. This is Reese now going for a move on Awards here. The two McLarens fighting each other, and then there's a little bit of a contact, I look like there, further back, as we were just checking on ourselves there. But Reese now just swooping around the outsides here of O'Ward. That was close there between the two drivers, but we know how this goes through the high-speed corners now. This probably won't end well for Reese, and it doesn't. Really close contact there to Sergio Perez in the Mercedes, and that's going to put him under real pressure now into this DRS zone here. Reese will have DRS himself, but I think Perez might just go for a little bit of an attack here, use a bit more of that battery. He's going to go down the inside in towards this banked corner. This is going to get tight between the two drivers, but I think Reese is just going to come out on top here, as meanwhile behind, we're trying to defend from Lando Norris here. Norris really pressuring us in this stage of the Grand Prix now, and it's not putting us in all of the best places on the circuit. As you can see here, back on board with ourselves now. We're saving our battery for this section of the circuit where the AIs don't seem to use it that much, and this is quite clear to see because we're having a look now on the Mercedes. That was close through there. We go a little bit wide through that quarter, through the turn 21 and 22 there, and that doesn't put us in the best of runs here on the DRS straight, but it is going to do so right now here, because we're now attacking Sergio Perez. We've got Reese ahead, who's also got DRS. We're going to have a look at the inside into turn 27, but we think better of it and decide to wait for the run down towards turn 1. As of course, making the run down towards T27 is just going to allow Perez to have some DRS back at us. And here we go then, making the attack on Sergio Perez, breaking nice and late down, around the outside, should we say, of Sergio Perez into turn 1. Claim the inside for turn 2, close the door to stop Sergio Perez getting that exit. A job done. Up into 7th place now here on lap 5. Reese next with Pato O'Ward in front. This is going to get interesting now between the two McLarens, because crucially, of course, O'Ward is not catching the cars in front. He's actually dropped back from them now, and there's a big train here, and Reese is one man that really doesn't want to be a part of this train here. So as they go now down towards the last corner here, Reese now moves to the outside line of Pato O'Ward, and as they go into the last corner, that's actually a very simple overtake for Reese. I genuinely thought it was a side-by-side moment as we nearly make contact there with O'Ward. But now, as you can see here, the DRS is going to be enabled for O'Ward and for myself here, so this is going to get interesting down in towards the first corner. Reese is going to be absolutely terrified now as he goes into turn 1 here, but Reese doesn't need to be as terrified as he thinks, because he's going to have that position safe and secure, and O'Ward there actually gets compromised on the exit, so that's not the best of things there for Pato O'Ward, as we've got, I think that's De Vries and Sam there. They're battling hard into the first sector on that lap, but back at the front here, the two Ferraris are leading the way. Mick Schumacher has overtaken Lewis Hamilton somewhere on track. Hamilton not too happy with that, and he's going to try and go back past Mick Schumacher around the outside of turn 1, down the inside of turn 2. Schumacher will have to run through the exit of turn 2. Job done for Schumacher, but Hamilton is probably going to use a bit of his battery here, stay side by side, make this battle go through towards the first sector of the lap here. Luckily for the two Ferraris, they don't really want to make contact, but they've got enough of a gap behind to really go for a battle between each other, and it's Schumacher that comes out on top. Lewis Hamilton there backing out from Mick Schumacher, so that's a little bit of an interesting scrap that will develop here, as we've got Lando Norris here under pressurizing Sergio Perez now in the Mercedes, who's under pressure from Charles Leclerc, under pressure from Pierre Gasly in behind. Everybody's going for a little bit of a battle here now as Norris sweeps around the outside. Lovely camera angle there of him attacking Sergio Perez, and in front of all that is Pato O'Ward. So O'Ward will be hoping that this battle goes on for a little bit longer, just to allow him to pull away here, and that's exactly what he's actually doing right now. As you can see, pressing down the straight now, heading in towards the next DRS zone here. Actually, Norris gets the move done, but unfortunately for Norris, he has to wait a little bit longer before he can breathe, because he's now got O'Ward driving off into the distance. That's not going to give him DRS here. What's going to get DRS is Sergio Perez. What's also going to get DRS is Gasly and also Leclerc here, who are side by side now, down the straight in towards the last corner. Sergio Perez has a look there around Lando Norris, but he doesn't make the move stick. A little bit struggling just with the straight line speed of the Mercedes. It's not as quick as the Jaguar in a straight line as Leclerc, that is really desperate here to find a way past Pierre Gasly as they make their way down in towards turn 1. Who's going to come out on top in this battle here? This battle's going to rage on for a little bit longer, isn't it? Because Leclerc goes around the outside of turn 1, then has to take the inside for turn 2. Gasly's got the high ground through turn 2. Now as they make their way down towards 3 and 4, this is where Gasly should potentially get closer towards Leclerc. Leclerc actually does a better run through there. Gasly's going to have to hold this one in here, and as they make their way now through towards the end of the first sector, it is Charles Leclerc that has to back down from that attack here. Back on board with us now on lap 7 of the Grand Prix, making great progress in this race here, keeping in touch with Reese, and also we've got the two Ferraris up front battling each other. We've then got Sam and De Vries scrapping with each other. Me and Reese are slowly gaining in on these cars, and I've decided enough is enough, and I want to bolt in this race. So we now open up the DRS here and breeze past Reese on the start-finish straight. He clearly was not using any of his battery at all in that defense, and now for me, it's all about just closing up to Sam and De Vries, but they're doing all the work for me because they're actually battling up ahead, and now that gap has gone down to half a second. That was close to the wall there through turns 21 and 22, but now we're in DRS range here of Nick De Vries and also Sam. Reese behind is well in DRS range, so he's not dropped off from this battle here, so it's going to carry on as the two Ferraris still leading up front here. That's a nice run through the second to last corner though, as we now go on to the start finish straight here. Who's going to come out on top in this battle? Sam versus De Vries versus Sam versus Reese in the background. De Vries is going to go for a move here to the outside of turn 1. Let's see if he can make this one stick then. Breaks nice and late. De Vries actually makes it stick cleanly around the outside of turn 1. Doesn't need to battle on with that one. We tried to do the switchback move on Sam from the exit of the chicane. We weren't close enough to make that one stick, so we got to sit back and wait a little bit longer here. But that's a nice run through turn 4, but we have to wait towards the end of the lap here. Sam back in DRS range of De Vries. De Vries is trying to cover off Sam here. Sam's going to go for it now around the outside into the last corner. Sam locks up though quite badly on the front left there, and we're now going to try and settle ourselves in, but crucially we are using our battery now because we're going to have the slipstream here on De Vries, nick the slipstream then from Sam, go towards the outside line here, put everything we've got into this start finish straight, and braking nice and late, cut the corner in towards turn 1, or cut the apex, sorry, not cut the whole corner there, and we make it stick, and that is now us into second place here as Lewis Hamilton actually comes into the pits, and I can confirm that that is not a scheduled stop from Hamilton. I didn't catch it on the replay cameras, but Lewis Hamilton suffered wing damage battling with Schumacher. So the two Ferraris have come to blows. We go wide there through the exit of that corner, and that's given Sam an opportunity to come back at us now. Initially goes to the outside line, which I tried to cover off, but then he fakes it to the inside, and it's a beautiful move there from Sam down the inside. Now we have to sit back and wait a little bit longer for our chance to re-attack Sam here as we now go through towards this middle sector here, trying to press onwards with Sam, but the back end is slid a little bit consciously there. There's contact between ourselves and De Vries as we make our way through the middle sector. The back end came out on us through those high-speed complex of corners. De Vries has lost his front wing end plate. Have we also lost our front wing too? We did hit the wall. Braking late, we have done. We've got no front end at all here as we just desperately trying to get the car to turn through this part of the lap. Crucially, we've got DRS on this straight to try and help a little bit there, but that's major contact between ourselves and Nick De Vries there. The back end stepped out as we went through that tricky set of corners. It's a corner that catches me out quite a lot actually in Saudi Arabia, but the back end stepped out. I then had to back out of the throttle as I made contact with the wall, and De Vries made contact with us. We've lost our front wing, and we're going to also have to make a pit stop here. I mean, this was our scheduled pit-in lap, so all in all, in terms of the overall race strategy, nothing's changed on that front. The biggest disaster that we've got now is that we've now lost time here with a front wing change, something that we really didn't need in this Grand Prix for De Vries as well. We've got to wait for a couple of cars to go through as well, just to add to the misery, just to add to the seconds growing. You can see here now that I think that's Charles Leclerc that is right behind us now in this race. Of course, we passed Leclerc earlier in the Grand Prix and had gapped him, but unfortunately, our race has now taken a completely different turn of events, and now we are 8.5 seconds behind Reese, 10 seconds behind Sam, and that is not what we want to be doing there, cutting the corner as the tyres are cold through there. We were right on the back of Sam, remember, we literally just got passed by Sam, and now we're 10 seconds back, and that makes our race even more worse. We go wide in the same corner as what we did the previous lap, but we'd already had 1 warning in the race. That other overtake was 2 warnings, 3 warnings, bam, it's a 3-second time penalty, which is really put us at a disadvantage. And our race is not getting any better because our teammate Gasly has found some pace here on his outlap, on his medium compound tyres. He's going for it. You can see the red light flashing on our end. So we've actually run out of energy here, and I'm using my energy to try and catch up to the front runners ahead of Perez and Norris, and Perez, O'Ward and Norris, should we say. But they're in DRS of each other at the moment, so that's really put us at a disadvantage. So hopefully now, all I need to rely on is 2 things. Number 1, Gasly can catch up to this group as we actually make contact with the wall again there, which he now has done. So our hope is kind of restored here a little bit. Crucially, we are in DRS range as well. 0.7 of a second is the gap between ourselves and Gasly, but Gasly's more focused on getting past Sergio Perez. Actually, we go side by side here through this high-speed section now as they make their way down in towards the chicane coming up. Who's going to come out on top here? It's Perez that comes out on top. We're right on the back now of Pierre Gasly here. It's become a little bit of a 3-way fight now as we make our way down the straight here. We've got to be careful here because I need to try and make some form of an overtake. Leclerc now tries to go for it as well. Leclerc desperate to find a gap in the track to go for a move here. We're going to dive it right down the inside of Sergio Perez. We managed to make the move done on Sergio Perez, but we actually went in a bit too deep. The one man that actually got help from that was our teammate Gasly. So Gasly now gets the DRS here. We don't have it on this straight. There's now a 3-wide moment going in behind us here as Ricciardo, Leclerc, and also Perez now get involved on that. Perez gets caught on the curb on the exit there of turn 2. Leclerc gets in front. Now Perez has got to find a way past Ricciardo in all of this. Daniel trying to make his way back up through the field. Back end sliding there for Ricciardo on the exit of turn 4 as they now make their way through the high-speed section. It's going to be Perez there that backs out of it. They always do, unfortunately. But for Perez, he won't give up on this lap 18 of the Grand Prix. He pressures on now towards the back of Daniel Ricciardo once again here. Goes towards the outside line of turns 1 and 2. Gets around the outside of turn 1, down the inside of turn 2. Ricciardo says, nope, you're not having that. And breathes is clear. And actually on that front here, unless Perez goes for a run down the outside of turn 4. Oh, he really wanted to go for a run down the outside there, but Ricciardo, great exit there, as we're out right on the back of Gasly here, lap 19. And our race is becoming more and more critical because we now need to really get past these cars and hope that they battle, because we've still got this time penalty looming above our heads. There's only 6 laps to go in this Grand Prix when we cross the start-finish line. So it's all well and good that we're, currently in P7 battling in P6, 5 and 4, but we may not even finish in the top 10 at this rate, because that's Ricciardo and Perez. They're having a battle in behind as we now make our way down in towards turn 1. O'Ward is having a look at Lando Norris in towards the first corner. We're going to have a look at our teammate Gasly in towards turn 1 here, making it nice and cautious through turn 1, but get the drive out of the exit of turn 2. 1 place done and dusted in this race. Gasly dispatched with gap now 4 tenths to Lando Norris in P5. O'Ward next. Then we've got to build 3 seconds somehow in this Grand Prix and hopefully try and claim an unlikely P4. But that's something that we're going to have to just try and, hope for, really, because I don't really have much hope. But of course, we need to do the action on the track here. So next up for us is going to be an attack here on Lando Norris, and that was a very simple overtake there on Lando Norris. A little bit wide there through the exit, but compromised was Lando Norris because they don't go for it in that corner. And now all of a sudden, we're in a very good position here to have a run at Pato O'Ward now, down the straight, in towards the last corner, but we need to be careful because there's another DRS zone coming up round the outside of Pato O'Ward into the last corner. Now who's got the DRS on this straight as we now go and blast our way through using our battery. O'Ward has got the DRS here, and O'Ward gets back past us again now as we're going to try and he's keeping the DRS. He goes to the middle of the track. We're going to go to the outside, but dumbing that and dive it down the inside here. Bold and brave as we go in towards turn 2, and we've made the move there on Pato O'Ward, and a fantastic overtake there versus ourselves and the McLaren there. A very bold and brave overtake. That was close to track limits. Bold and brave there versus Pato O'Ward, making sure that we knew exactly where he's going, and he covered the middle of the track, but I knew that O'Ward would go back to the inside line, back to the racing line here, but I can't be too proud of my attack here on O'Ward because he's coming back at us. There's a DRS zone that we've just had to navigate there, and here comes O'Ward now round the outside into the banked corner. Now that's going to carry on side by side here as we go in towards the chicane where we lost our front wing at the start of this race. Round the outside we go now, this time navigating that one absolutely beautifully there, and now we can press onwards in this race. This is now a crucial phase of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix because Pato O'Ward and Lando Norris are battling as they head down towards T21 and 22. This is where I can get them out of DRS range and blast onwards now, and that's exactly what they've done. They've compromised each other quite badly here as they make their way down towards turn 27. Look at the gap that we've already got on them now. It's nearly 3-4 wide between these cars. What a beautiful helicopter cam to really showcase what's going on. Norris makes it through. Award is now in a bit of a sandwich here, and now all of a sudden Award's lost out to Leclerc. Leclerc is now trying to chase after Norris, and now all of a sudden Award's here is being pressurised by Gasly. Gasly's past Award. Now he's attacking Charles Leclerc in this Grand Prix, but he can't find a way through. Award now tries to get back past Gasly. Gasly goes to the inside into turn 2. Award has the outside line for turn 2, but he covers that one off, and all of a sudden Gasly's the one that's going to be compromised in all of this. Round we go towards turn 3 and 4. Now the middle sector here. In fact, Gasly's actually just breezed past there with absolute ease. Lap 22 of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris here is still catching us. He's still about 1.6 seconds behind here, but Leclerc has got other ideas for the attack on Lando Norris, because he wants a position here. He goes down the inside of turns 1 and 2, and this is absolutely brilliant for us in this Grand Prix, because these two battling, it's just going to allow us to pull away now in this race. Everything that we needed to happen to maintain 4th place in this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is going our way as we now breeze our way through. Norris holds off against Leclerc. Leclerc now is coming back for another bit of an attacking prowess here versus Lando Norris, as they now have DRS here down in towards turn 27. Of course, this is a very different type of battle for Leclerc and Lando Norris. So they go around the outside here into the last corner. We've seen Leclerc battle for the leads before, but the Jaguar and Audi cars unfortunately have slipped down the pecking order this season compared to where they were last season. But this is going to get interesting now. Gasly is going to go for it versus Leclerc and Norris. Gasly's dispatched with Norris. Now he's got Leclerc to dispatch with as they go round and towards turn 1 and turn 2. This could be a double overtake here for Gasly if he plays his card right, but I don't think he's playing his cards too correctly here as they go down in towards the first sector. This is where Gasly can get the job done. Round the outside, get the traction down. Leclerc is dispatched with great overtake there from Pierre Gasly, but the battle is still not over, by the way, because here comes Sergio Perez to say, hello guys, I fancy some fighting. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing here. I'm not sure where De Vries has got and all. Oh yeah, De Vries made contact with us. Oh, that's a bit silly there for myself to forget that as Norris there tried to have a look here, but Perez wants to have a go at Pato Award and get Pato out of DRS of Lando Norris to have a clean run at Pato on the final laps here as they go towards the chicane here. This is going to cost them crucial time here. This might drop them out of DRS range here. Award though just about holds on here around the outside. Now it's a straight drag between the Mercedes and the McLaren. Who's using their battery? Who's not using their battery? We'll find out from the helicopter cam. It looks so tight, so close, doesn't it? But Award is the man that's got more straight line speed, and he's able to just navigate his way through turn 21 and 22 absolutely cleanly there as they now breeze down the straight here. Leclerc versus Norris. As you can see, we've got Pato Award under pressure though, because I think he's got DRS, but he's just too far back for a slipstream in towards the second to last corner. He does have DRS. He is able to cover off Sergio Perez heading into the final corner, but has he got DRS on this straight now? Let's have a look. No, because I didn't actually cut to it. Lap 25 of the Grand Prix, and as you can see, we've got a 4 second gap here. But you're probably looking at this first sector thinking this is some of the worst driving that you've ever seen in your entire life. And I'll tell you why. Again, I couldn't find where I did it, but I bumped the wall and I've taken front wing damage. And I thought, no, Jeff just said it's a minor piece of damage. It's absolutely okay. But unfortunately, it's not. And as you can see, what was a 4 second gap a second ago is now 2.4 seconds. I can't even slow the car down anymore into these high-speed corners. And it's the last lap of the Grand Prix. We did everything right. We did everything right getting the position that we were in, getting up into P4, building the 3 second gap, building even more than 3 seconds at some point here. But we're throwing it away. One man that's not throwing it away though, Mick Schumacher crosses the line for Ferrari. He's won his first race in Formula 1. Congratulations to Mick Schumacher. It is absolute pure joy for him, but unfortunately for me, it's going to be heartbreak because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have the 3 second buffer that I had, and I lost it all because I bumped the wall, and I can't find where I bumped the wall. I genuinely can't. I tried to look back, but the problem was my front wing indicator that you normally get when you bump the wall, it didn't come up saying I'd taken damage. Of course, there are some times when you take damage in game, and you can tell Jeff, and I spoke to Jeff immediately or a little bit afterwards because I had understeer towards turns 1 and 2, and he then said you've got front wing damage. And it was curtains at that point. Of course, with these cars being as light and as fast as they are through the corners, I've made the cars, I've modded them so they're about 6, they're massive, they're over 6 seconds a lap quicker than real life. You need your front wing, and if you take the slightest of damage, game over. and it's game over there, and we lost out. So, nonetheless though, Mick Schumacher wins the Grand Prix. Not only does he win the Grand Prix, but he also took the fastest lap with a 1 minute 22.558 on the last lap to really cement home what was a dominant weekend for Ferrari, but only one Ferrari could take home the dominance here today. Maximum points for Mick Schumacher. Sam crosses the line in P2. Great result from him, starting from P5. He finishes 6.5 seconds behind Mick in the end. Reese finishes in third, 7.6 seconds behind in the end. He'll be disappointed with that. He obviously had a good race nonetheless because he started a little bit further down the order. But to be 1.1 seconds behind Sam, just get himself a tenth of a second and a bit of DRS, and he's got a perfect chance to claim P2. Gasly finishes in P4, 20.7 seconds behind in the end. The only silver lining to our 3-second time penalty is that Gasly got P4 and it wasn't Leclerc, so there's a little bit of a silver lining there, but it could have been a P4 and a P5, but unfortunately it's a P4 and a P6, but in the middle of that is Charles Leclerc, 21 seconds off in the end. We finished 21.5 seconds behind, and we had a tenth of a second in hand to Lando Norris, so it could have been a P7 there, but I think our final sector was really strong because I just dropped my entire battery and just went for it to try and build a gap there. Pato O'Ward finishes in 8th for McLaren, 22.5 seconds off in the end. Sergio Perez 9th, 22.8 off in the end. And then Max Verstappen, quite a lonely P10 for him, 30 seconds off the pace. Checking out the second half of the table now. As you can see, as I nearly choked my own saliva there, bet you wanted to know that. George Russell finishes in 11th place, 32.1 seconds behind at the checkered flag. Callum Ilott, 12th for Ford. Lewis Hamilton, he had front wing damage and it cost him badly. P13 is all he could get. He did get close to getting back to the points, but that Ferrari, it should have been a 1-2 for Ferrari, but it wasn't to be. Daniel Ricciardo, P14, a very bad race for Daniel Ricciardo, one that he'll want to forget in a hurry. Stoffel Van Dorn, 15th for Ford, with Nick de Vries finishing in 16th place for Mercedes. And then it is Oscar Piastri, 17th for Aston Martin, ahead of Carlos Sainz in 18th place for Porsche. The second Aston Martin of Theo Porcher was 19th for this race. And Valtteri Bottas was last, as he didn't classify. He retired very early on in the Grand Prix. Big shame for Valtteri Bottas. Checking out the Drivers' Championship now, and as you can see after that Grand Prix, we still lead the Drivers' Championship with 82 points to our name, but the gap at the top has been slightly reduced. I think it's by 2 or 3 points. The gap is 23 points at the top of the championship between myself and Sam now at second in the championship. Reese moves to third in the championship. I think he might have actually stayed there and just had to flip around between Sam and Hamilton. Can't remember, but he's 56 points to his name in the championship. 26 points is the difference between myself and Reese. Lewis Hamilton is now 4th in the championship after failing to score here today. He's on 52 points and is 1 point clear of his teammate Mick Schumacher. Mick, of course, with that win and the fastest lap, catapults himself up in the championship standings. He's on 51 points, 31 points back in the championship. Sergio Perez is 6th in the championship with 34 points to his name. Same with Daniel Ricciardo, who's on 34 points. Same with Charles Leclerc, who's also on 34 points. All of them 48 points back in the championship. Pierre Gasly is up to 9th in the championship with 26 points to his name. Again, a good strong 4th place finish. Puts him into the top 10 in the championship standings. And Lando Norris is 10th in the championship for Jaguar with 22 points. Next is the Dutch Grand Prix, a track which favours the AI, not so much the players. So that's a bit of a worry for us. In the Constructors' Championship, nobody moved positions for the first time this season. The Constructors' standing stays neutral. So it's just a lot of white dotted lines. Ferrari are on 118 points. They've got a 10-point lead over ourselves. Renault with 108 points to our name. Red Bull are on 93 points. McLaren sit with 75 points. Mercedes are on 48 points, but they're coming under pressure now from Audi as they're now on 46 points. So could we be seeing a scrap between those two for 5th in the championship? Jaguar are on 31 points with Ford sitting on 6 points, with Aston Martin having 2 points to their name, and then Porsche are still yet to score a point. Will they even score a point at all this season? Their car is just not competitive enough. But for now, that is it for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Let's get straight into the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers have to say after the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Taking a look at the post-race notebook, and it was Mick Schumacher that won his first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix, and he has done it for Ferrari in Saudi Arabia. They had the pace over the competitors, and unfortunately for Lewis Hamilton, it didn't work out, but for Mick Schumacher, it certainly did. Sam finishes the race in P2 with Reese crossing the line to take home P3, but unfortunately, all of the talking point was behind the scenes in the paddock, as yet again we have had another controversial moment between two drivers this time around after the race, and this is including Tom and Nick de Vries. Now, Nick de Vries has been involved in a few collisions now with Tom after Tom has made a form of an error in which de Vries has then ended up making contact after the collision. Tom and Nick de Vries were once again spotted in a heated discussion in the paddock after this race. However, they both have come out with their own sides of the stories rather than waiting like Red Bull did. Nick de Vries has said that Tom is constantly targeting Nick in this format, as he is constantly being involved in his own collisions. However, Tom has specifically been stating that de Vries is unable to react to any form of mistake that Tom is making, and therefore he lacks the reactions that is needed for a Formula 1 driver to be on the grid. Of course, that's just what they've said after the race has happened, and with a little bit of time to get the emotions down. What they actually said when the emotions were high is another matter. But will we see the fallout to this confrontation now next time around, or is that going to be swept under the sand here in Jeddah? We'll just have to find out next time around. It is the Dutch Grand Prix, but for now, I'll see you guys then. Take care all. Peace.